the channel. I'm back to break down this 9-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, if you could please go ahead and check out all the KJK DFS links in the description. I got a bunch of stuff going on over there. I have some MLB packages released over there on Patreon where you'll get access to things like my pitching data sheet that you see behind me during the video, the hot hitter StatCast data tool, my team hitting data, my bullpen data, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. And then I also do have a merch store where you can get anything KJK DFS merch. And lastly, you could follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top pitcher on the slate today in K rate is that in Garrett Cole taking on these Toronto Blue Jays. Garrett Cole comes in with a 36.7% K rate, a 15.5% swinging strike rate. Very good across the board. He's got a great SIERA, great ERA, good in the hard contact category. He's got a 32.6% K rate against righties and a 41% K rate against lefties. So he's a guy that we can target really against any lineups because his strikeout rate is very effective against both sides of the plate or both handedness hitters. And he's actually more effective against lefties in the K rate. So either way, the K rate's very impressive against righties. And then when you go to lefties, typically that K rate may drop, but not with Garrett Cole. So a guy that we can definitely have interest in. And then when you look at the Vegas lines, he does come in as a 285 favorite taking on these Toronto Blue Jays. So Vegas really likes him to pick up the win here, which just adds to the appeal of playing him. And then you factor in his price tag. He's only 9.9K on DraftKings. And I say only because typically Garrett Cole's a guy I think we would pay up in the 10K range. I know we're only off that 10K mark by 100, but anytime he's in the 9K range, it just kind of pops out. So I think we can go ahead and take advantage and play Garrett Cole today. First guy on the list to play. And then moving further along, second on the list, the strikeout rate is that in Jacob DeGrom. DeGrom, also an elite pitcher, comes in with a 32.6% K rate. Slightly worse than Garrett Cole's. However, his swinging strike rate is better. His ground ball, his fly ball, his walk, and his hard hit rate's better. So what he lacks in the strikeout category, he makes up for in the hard contact category. He has a 35.2% K rate against righties, a 4.2 walk rate, the woe with the hard hit rate, the slugging, very impressive once again. And then you go over to lefties, and it doesn't really drop down. The only thing that dips down is his strikeout rate. He has a 35.2% K rate against righties, and then a 29.8% K rate against lefties. So when looking at this Philadelphia Phillies team that he's taking on today, you can see that he is a 143 favorite. So once again, Vegas does like him to pick up the win. And he comes in at a 10.4K price tag. So he is a little bit more expensive than Garrett Cole, and he is a little bit less of a favorite. Or I say a little less of a favorite. He's a big downgrade as far as the Vegas line, but he's Jacob DeGrom. We have to have interest in him every single time he takes the mound. And while the Philadelphia Phillies matchup isn't exactly ideal, Jacob DeGrom is matchup proof. He's a stud. He's a Cy Young candidate year in and year out. He's a guy you have to have interest in every single time he takes the mound. So DeGrom definitely got to have interest in. This next guy is a guy to keep an eye on, Caleb Smith. Former Marlin, looked real good at times with the Marlins. I don't know what his pitch count's going to be. Both him and Cole Hamels are guys that I'm looking to keep an eye on the news throughout the day. We'll break down Cole Hamels later, but Caleb Smith is a guy that definitely has the strikeout rate stuff. He just has a hard contact issue. He has a 26.2% K rate, a 12.4 swinging strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff is where it gets a little scary in the hard contact. And then the same thing against right-handed hitting. He has a 452 slugging, the 24.3 and 56.7 in the ground ball and fly ball is not great, but the 26.6% K rate is good. And then he has a 25.2% K rate against lefties. And the ground ball, the hard contact, and all that stuff is a lot better. So Caleb Smith taking on these Los Angeles Angels today. He's only 5.8K on DraftKings, so I'm really interested to see how many pitches he's going to go out there and throw because that's very, very cheap. The Los Angeles Angels do have a 5.33 implied run total, which isn't the greatest, but when you're dealing with a price tag at only 5.8 on DraftKings, I don't know. I can't say it enough. It's just really cheap. So if we can get some strikeout upside, even if he's going out there and giving up 4 runs, I can live with that if he's able to go out there and get some Ks. So I'm really interested to see Caleb Smith's the news on him and how many pitches he's going to throw and that kind of thing. If you're a Patreon member of mine, go ahead and keep an eye on the Discord chat and make sure to ask that question, because as I'm going through my research, that's something I'll always be looking at, see how many pitches these guys are throwing. So if you don't know, just go ahead and hop in the Discord chat and ask me. Moving further along, the next guy that we could target is Lucas G Alito. Lucas G Alito has been very good this year. He does have to take on this Minnesota Twins team, which isn't ideal, but he's been on top of his stuff. He's a 25.3% K rate, a 12.5 swinging strike rate. The hard contact's been very good. He's a 26.1% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 24.5% K rate against lefties. So the Twins are obviously a little bit of a scary team. With that lineup up and down. However, Lucas Giolito is a 165 favorite in this game. So Vegas is liking him to pick up the win. And when looking at my team hitting data sheet, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek of that. And you're looking at these Twins, you can see they do have a pretty decent strikeout rate overall, a 24% K rate. While they are a good team in the ISO, the slugging, and all that type of stuff, they do strike out a decent amount. And then when we're looking at the splits, they have a 26% K rate against right-handed pitchers. So obviously not the best matchup. They are a little bit scary, but there are some Ks in this lineup. So you could definitely have interest in playing some Lucas Giolito. Next guy on the list has to be Lance Mccullers Jr. We'll go over a couple more guys. I'd say we really have to look into. I'm interested to see if this Seattle-San Francisco game gets canceled today, because that might not even be a factor on the slate. But I went ahead and listed them just in case. But anyways, Lance McCullers' next option, he has a 25.2% K rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's very impressive. He has a 12.9 swinging strike rate. 21.9% K rate against righties, and then a 28.6% K rate against lefties. And he's actually much more effective against left-handed hitting. So when looking at the matchup that he has today in these Texas Rangers, I do think that that's going to pan out really well for him, because there's a lot of lefties in this lineup, and there's a lot of lefties with a lot of Ks. So guys with power for sure, but guys that strike out: Willie Calhoun, Joey Gallo, Rougned Odor, Ronald Guzman. These are all guys that can crush, but they're all guys that strike out a lot. And when you're looking at Lance McCullers' splits, he has a 28.6% K rate against lefties. So being that it's only a 21.9% K rate against righties, he gets that boost against left-handed hitting, and he's better in the hard contact and all that stuff. And then you factor in the matchup. I do think I can go ahead and produce Lance McCullers in a major way today, because all the data's matching up. It makes a lot of sense to play him. And he's only 7.5K, so he's in the mid-range. It's a big drop-down price. You can get you some salary relief from these top-tier options like a Garrett Cole and a Jacob deGrom. And yeah, all the data is matching up, so I definitely like Lance McCullers today. And then the last guy on the slate that I'm going to mention for pitching before we get into hitting is going to be the top prospect in Brady Singer, taking on these Detroit Tigers. Brady Singer, top prospect for these Kansas City Royals. And looking at his numbers so far during his major league outings, we can see, where is he? I missed him here. Brady Singer. So he hasn't been the greatest overall, but the ground ball and the fly ball stuff has been very impressive. I mean, we're dealing with a 48 innings pitch sample size at this point. Doing a great job of keeping the ball on the ground. He has a 21.8% K rate, which isn't really standing out, but it's respectable. He has a 24.4% K rate against right-handed hitting, which really stands out to me in this matchup. And then he has a 19.6% K rate against lefties. So he's a kid that's supposed to be really talented. He gets to take on the Detroit Tigers, who are the worst in the league in strikeout rate. And they're just a lineup that we love to target, because they're not really the most threatening. They don't really scare us. And then you factor in that Brady Singer comes in as a 130 favorite, and I think he's got the full package as far as a cheap guy that we could throw in our lineups with some upside. So, yeah, Detroit worst in the league in strikeout rate. Brady Singer, a kid that's just supposed to have a lot of talent. Might be a little raw at first. When these guys first come into the majors, it's an adjustment. But I think it's a great spot to go ahead and jump on Brady Singer. So, yeah, I have to promote Brady Singer today. Have to promote him, get him in your lineups on the cheap end. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some bats that we're going to want to target today. So when looking at the bats, similar to pitching, if you've tuned into my other videos, you know I like to look at Sierra, skill interactive ERA. I think it's a great way to figure out some of the bats that we're going to want to target. And the worst guy in the slate in Sierra is that in Tariq Skubal for these Detroit Tigers taking on the Kansas City Royals. Very bad across the board. He has a 7.27 ERA. The strikeout rate hasn't been the greatest. The ground ball is terrible. The hard hit rate's terrible. Against righties, he gives up a 6.08 slugging. That is very, very bad. Very bad. And then against lefties, he's actually been pretty effective. So he's just really struggling against right-handed hitting. And when you're looking at this Kansas City Royals lineup, that makes this spot real juicy because they're stacked up with righties. And they don't even have the highest implied run total, which I tend to disagree with. I mean, I think that they're going to score more than I mean, you can't score half a run in baseball, but that's how Vegas factors out, you know, their odds here, and they have a 4.45 implied run total. So, you know, I tend to think that they're going to score at least 5 runs is what I'm getting at. But, yeah, so we can definitely have interest in these righties, which is pretty much every single hitter in this lineup. And when you're factoring in Skubal's splits, yeah, it's just looking scary good for these Kansas City Royals today. Whit Merrifield, Alberto Mondesi, Salvador Perez, Maikel Franco, Hunter Dozier, Olivares, Gutierrez, Starling. I have interest in every single one of these right-handed hitters. I wouldn't play Nicky Lopez in the 9-hole, so I don't have interest in one hitter in this lineup. The rest, go ahead and play them because it is looking real good for them. My top options would be Whit Merrifield at the top. Alberto Mondesi's been real hot. Salvador Perez fills in that catcher position for you. And then Maikel Franco and Hunter Dozier. So, I mean, I'm looking to stack up the 1 through 5 range. You know, if you force me to pick my 3 favorites, I'd probably go with Whit Merrifield, Alberto Mondesi, and Hunter Dozier. But it's tough. I like every single one of them. I want to get that full stack in there. So, yeah, like the Royals today. Moving further along, the next spot is the Atlanta Braves taking on Keegan Aiken. Once again, not good. Very, very bad at everything except the hard contact rate, which is a little ironic. And that applies for right-handed hitting. But he does give a 4.62 slugging, and it's just right across the board in the ground ball, the fly ball, the WOBA. And then against lefties, he's very good. So we're dealing with 2 very similar pitchers here in Keegan Aiken and Tariq Skubal as far as they just can't get any right-handed hitters out. I will mention that we're only dealing with a 17 innings pitch sample size and a 13 innings pitch sample size, but clear struggles early on and taking on lineups that have right-handed hitters that can match them. So I think it applies to us wanting to target them. Even though it's a small sample size, I think we can go ahead and target these righties. So Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, Austin Riley, Tyler Flowers, all of these righties, and then Ozzie Albies is a guy that crushes left-handed pitching. So I like him a lot today in the second base spot. Even though he's in the 9 spot, when you are hitting in a lineup that's as talented as this one, you're going to have opportunity. So, yeah. Scary good. It's almost hard to narrow down who I like the most. Travis d'Arnaud as a catcher is a great play because he crushes lefties. And he's in a great spot today to go deep against Aiken. Dansby Swanson, Adam Duvall, yeah, every single one of these guys. We do prefer the 3 through 6 range there. So Ozuna, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, and Adam Duvall. However, literally the whole lineup crushes lefties. Austin Riley, Tyler Flowers, and Ozzie Albies. It's not like these guys are downgrades really. They're not as high up in the order, but they crush lefties. And we do play daily fantasy sports where we have to fill in positions at every single position, and we have to stack up these lineups. Not that you have to stack, but I am a big promoter of it. I think it's the most optimal way to win tournaments. I think it's the most optimal way to get the highest score. And I think you just go ahead and throw in anyone that fits in your lineup with your other stack from these Atlanta Braves, which is a great feeling. It sucks when you're stacking up a team and you don't have that one guy that hits 2 home runs. But I mean, it's kind of a good feeling at the same time when you can just throw in anyone from this lineup and feel great about it. And I think that's the case today. Freddie Freeman is a guy that crushes lefties and righties, but Looking at Aiken splits, he has been more effective against lefties, so maybe not play Freddie. However, he might be lower owned in the stack because of just that. He's a lefty-on-lefty matchup. Moving further along, I really don't know if this Seattle-San Francisco game is going to play, but if it does, I have a ton of interest in these Mariners, so I'll just be quick about it. Drew Smyly stinks. He has a 45.6% hard hit rate, a 501 slugging against right-handed hitting, 633 slugging against lefties, which is scary bad. That might be the worst slugging I've ever seen on my sheet this year. I mean, we had talked about Scooble, who's terrible, and he has a 608 slugging to these righties, but 633 is real bad. So anyways, Drew Smyly's not good. And if he's pitching today, I'm going to have a ton of interest in the Seattle Mariners stack, which I don't even know if this game's going to play, so we'll just make it quick. Dylan Moore, Ty France, Kyle Lewis, Kyle Seager, Evan White, all of these guys crush lefties down through Torrens and Phillip Ervin. So I would play every single one of those guys. So, yeah. If this game plays, have a lot of interest in the Mariners. Moving further along, the top lineup of the slate last night, the New York Yankees popped off, and I think you can have a ton of interest in them today because they take on Tanner Roark, who doesn't strike anyone out. And when looking at his splits, he gives up a 456 slugging against righties, which is not good. And then a 460 against lefties. He's just consistently below average and just doesn't strike anyone out. So the ball's going to be put in play a lot. And when you have guys that have a ton of power, that's what you want because these guys can just crush the ball. It's just a matter of if they're getting struck out at the plate. And Roark can't strike anyone out. So DJ LeMahieu, Luke Voigt, Aaron Hicks, Clint Frazier, Gleyber Torres, the center of this order you got to have a ton of interest in. Giancarlo Stanton was back last night, but I'm not sure if he's going to be in the lineup tonight. So keep an eye on that. Gio Urshela, Brett Gardner, Kyle Higashioka, Mike Tauchman. Yeah, you really have interest in anyone that just crushes because we're not dealing with a splitsy pitcher. Just overall, he's pretty bad against both sides of the plate, and he doesn't strike anyone out. So, we just want to target the guys with power, and the Yankees have a ton of guys that you can do that with. So, another stack to have a ton of interest in. And moving further along, I'm going to probably talk about two more spots real quick, and then we'll wrap this video up with my home run call of the day. So the first spot is in this Houston, Texas game. Kyle Gibson taking on the Houston Astros. The K rate's not there. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's pretty impressive. When looking at his splits against righties, he's pretty good. And against lefties, he gets worse. He has a 433 slugging. And you're looking at the Vegas lines today, and you're seeing that these Houston Astros are implied to score 5.63 runs. And then the Texas Rangers bullpen isn't really all that threatening. So Kyle Gibson, not a guy that really intimidates us. And we do have some sluggers in this Astros lineup. Our premier stack would be the 1 through 5 range: Springer, Altuve, Brantley, Bregman, and Kyle Tucker. However, at the bottom of the order, there are some guys with power that are on their cheaper end, and Uleski, Gurriel, Reddick, Maldonado, and Mayfield. I primarily do have interest in the 1 through 5 range, very similar to the Royal stack that we had gone over. But another spot to have interest in. And then the very last spot that I'm going to talk about is probably, well, I shouldn't say probably because I know I'm going to talk about it, but when we're looking at the splits over here for, where'd he go? John Lester up here. So John Lester's up here in the Sierra, in the bad Sierra category with Drew Smyly. So if that gives you any detail as to why we can have, he has some name value. John Lester's a known guy, but the K rate, the swing strike rate's not there. And then against righties, he gives a 434 slugging, not the best, and the K rate, once again, it's only a 20% K rate. And then against lefties, it actually gets worse. So Lester's a guy that's just below average. He goes out there and just throws a bunch of cutters. And typically speaking, the majority of right-handed hitters that crush lefties crush cutters. So that doesn't really align well for Mr. Lester. And when you have guys like Franmil Reyes and Jordan Luplow who just kill left-handed pitching, you can have a ton of interest in them today. And then, of course, the elite hitters at the top, and Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez, and Francisco Lindor. But I will say, really, my top two options in this lineup, well, I'll say three because you do have Roberto Perez who crushes lefties and he fills in a catcher spot. So we're always looking for catchers that are in good spots and more on the cheap end. So you got Franmil Reyes, Jordan Luplow, and Roberto Perez. They're my favorite options. And then Carlos Santana, Jose Ramirez, and Francisco Lindor are the obvious. They're just kind of on the obvious end, but towards the bottom of the order, those three guys that I listed really stand out. So yeah, that is my overall breakdown of today's MLB DFS slate. As always, I like to give you guys a little bit of a quick little breakdown of what I've gone over. So what we've gone over today, let's see, we got Jacob deGrom, elite option pitching. Gotta like him. Garrett Cole, lead option, and I like this Yankee stack taking on Tanner Roark. There's going to be a lot of balls put in play, and there's a lot of power in this Yankees lineup. I like these Kansas City Royals taking on Tariq Skubal. I think their run total is too low. I think they can rack up some runs in this matchup. The Atlanta Braves are in a ridiculously good spot, taking on Keegan Akin, and their lineup's just designed to kill left-handed pitching. So, ton of interest in them today. Let's see, Lucas G Alito taking on the Minnesota Twins. You could definitely have interest in him. He comes in as a 165 favorite, and he's just been dominant all year long. Lance McCullers, I had mentioned his splits against lefties. He really excels against left-handed hitters. It's a little bit backwards as to what we typically see from a pitcher. But we don't care because he takes on a Texas Rangers team with a ton of lefties and a ton of strikeouts. So I like him. This Houston Astros team, you can go ahead and stack up, taking on Kyle Gibson. I like some one-offs from the Cleveland Indians and Franmil Reyes and Jordan Luplow, but you can also go ahead and stack them up with Santana, Ramirez, Lindor. And then Roberto Perez at the bottom order I like as well. Caleb Smith is a guy I'm interested to see his pitch count because he is a kid with a lot of talent. He just has a hard contact rate issue, but he has the strikeout rate ability. So at only 5.8K, I'm interested to see that and how that pans out as far as his pitch count is concerned. And then this last game, Drew Smyly's terrible. LJ Newsome's terrible too. I just didn't want to dig into it too much because if it doesn't play, we're going to waste our time on it. But just know that LJ Newsome's terrible as well. So you could stack up these power hitters from the Giants, and Yastrzemski, Dickerson, Brandon Belt. I would like those lefties with some power. And then on the Mariners side, you got Dylan Moore, Ty France, Kyle Lewis, Kyle Seager, and Evan White. The 1 through 7 range. They're all good against lefties. So yeah. That is my overall breakdown of today's slate. I have to give you guys my home run call of the day. And my home run call of the day, when we're looking at these splits and we're talking about how terrible Tariq Skubal has been against right-handed hitting. We go ahead and highlight him on my sheet here. And taking on these Kansas City Royals. He has just been very, very, very bad against right-handed hitting. A 608 slugging is just terrible. I know we're only dealing with a 17 innings pitch sample size, but I mean, that's 17 innings pitched. I think we can hop on the train early as far as his struggles. And my home run call of the day today is going to be that in Hunter Dozier. I called Hunter Dozier for a home run one time so far in my home run segment, and he let us down, so going back to the well, he's a guy that crushes left-handed pitching. He's got a ton of power against lefties. And when you're looking at Tariq Skubal's numbers, scary bad against right-handed hitting. So Mr. Hunter Dozier is my home run call of the day. Get him in your lineups. If you're enjoying the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos that I release. That is all for me today, guys. Go ahead and check out all the KJK DFS links linked in the description. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.